Hey everybody, and welcome to the Dice Friends Q&A for Bylaw and Order 2, the 6th District. I'm Graham, and I'll be sort of moderating the Q&A, and that was most of my. This will be most of my involvement over the course of the campaign. And of course, everyone is here, joining me from left to right. Kathleen and Wheeler.
Thank you for having me, Graham. It's great to be here.
Thank you for being here, Cameron. Ben.
We're live.
Yeah, and Ian.
It's your boy!
Yeah, we are indeed live. We are, this is the first live broadcast we've done for this particular round of Dice Friends. And in fact, if you missed it, just last night was the broadcast of the 9th and final episode of Bylaw and Order 2. So if you have missed it, go to youtube.com/LRRTT to go watch the episode, the finale episode, because tonight we're talking spoils. We're going full spoiler mode this evening as we discuss stuff from all across the thing and answering some of your questions. You sent us some questions in the Q&A thread on the Discord, and we're going to go through some of those. And later we're also going to open it up, obviously, to questions from the chat. But I imagine at least a bulk of what you have will be hit by these questions, I would think, but we'll see. And I guess before we begin, I just want to remind you that everything we do here at Loading Ready Run is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. So there you go. Mm-hmm. I want to know if Doggo had puppies. I mean, that's future.
I mean, maybe she could.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all right. So we've already given the spoiler warning.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, we're on Kamigawa now, so anything
She
could
could be
happen.
a lovely Shiba Inu.
Yeah, that's true.
Amazing.
Or a rat. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's open.
I also want to mention that for the first little bit of the stream, we are joined through the power of the internet by Featherweight. Hello.
Hello!
Hi.
Hey, Featherweight.
Hey!
Yeah. So pretty shortly, we're going to talk a little bit about Featherweight's art and his process. But first, I want to go with a question from the Discord from 321 Pants Off, which is just sort of generally talking about character creation and what the process was for everybody. Sort of, they're curious about how much input was from the individual players, whether or not Kathleen had any input on character creation, whether people collaborated between the party, or just what the character creation process was like. I don't know if one of the players wants to jump in first on that. Ian, you gestured.
It was actually one of the easiest character creations I've done because most of the character themselves, other than the numbers, was already pre-made from previous campaign. This is the first time I've actually had to been able to carry a character over from one campaign to another, and that really made a lot of things easy. Other than that, I just decided to lean into the character as me as much as possible this time, and I think that came out. Also, level 5, rad for a wizard.
I was gonna ask. Speaking of numbers, because it wasn't necessarily like specifically laid out, and there were a couple folks on the Discord, particularly, who were just sort of curious, number-wise, level-wise, what level were folks, what classes, how your class was built, because obviously we saw people using various skills and stuff, but we never were like, hi, I'm a level 5 this, and these are the skills that I've elected to use. Maybe if just while we're going around, if you want to just talk about sort of what Enor's actual sort of like stats block is.
Yeah, very quickly on that. It was, I decided we got a chance to change classes, and I thought, no, I'm going to stay as a wizard. But, having gone to prison, maybe he's going to get a little bit more buff. We're going to put some more numbers into his strength and into his hit points, and learn a couple of spells that I think would be flavorful and interesting to use.
Sweet. Ben.
Yeah, I mean, so in the first campaign, Nog and Dog were I was a fighter, and I like the whole concept of a goblin riding a large mastiff, but then after it was done, and when talking to Kathleen a bunch about like the campaign, I didn't want to be part of the Boros anymore, so I was like, okay, how should I like multi-class it or do it like that? And we're just like, nah, let's just rewrite Nog. Why not? So Nog ended up being a level 5. Just I think I put 4 points in Ranger and 1 point in Rogue. I think that was how I went. Because I wanted him to be a private eye. I mean, I wanted him to have like almost Scooby-Doo shenanigans. And I think like the term that you and I used when we were sitting down was like, I actually kind of wanted him to play like Leslie Nielsen in like Naked Gun kind of a thing. Like Nog stumbles into stuff. So yeah. So for me, I mean, I my favorite part of playing D&D is creating the character. So I just like rolling people and put him together like that, and was pretty easy and good to go.
Sweet. Cameron.
Yeah, I got to bring Avenir forward from the first campaign basically as is, but his concept was that he was...
And just to cut in, sorry, that your 3 characters were characters that you originally made yourselves
Yes.
for the first campaign.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to show up in any sort of official book of characters anytime soon.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you never know. Hey, well,
I mean, yeah.
post him to D&D Beyond and see what happens.
Yep, yeah. We'll have to make sure that they all show up in the next Modern Horizons set.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As completely busted commanders.
Put Enar on counter
Flavor
spell
text
you
writers?
cowards.
Flavor text writers?
If they ask us back, I'm going to try.
The idea for Avenir was that he was kind of based on a few friends I had in university who went on to study at places like Carleton to do their master's or PhD work in international studies and become diplomats in the foreign service. And I wanted to play a character who did that and did really well in it, and then got shuffled into a menial bureaucratic job where he would be forgotten. Because I wanted somebody who believed in kind of the concept of the Azorius Senate as a governing body that was necessary, and who also believed in the necessity of all the other guilds to create this, multicultural Ravnican tapestry society that is in everyone's best interest, and instead winds up just in a basement, rubber stamping things and hating his life. And the only class that really supported that well, I felt, was Rogue, because it's a skill-based class, and I wanted Avenir to have like a broad base of skills to draw upon. And I wound up working in a lot of the combat-based Rogue abilities as kind of him just doing things for insurance purposes, right? Like, he gets an insurance premium if he carries a sword. And he picked locks because that's one of the things that you would do in university, and he was athletic because he played fountain ball, and he was on the intramural fountain ball team. And everyone I've known who has done work like this has also just been kind of like very serious about their own physical health, right? Like, you go to work and then you go to the gym for an hour afterwards because, mind and body have to work in concert. And then you go home and you sleep, and then you wake up and you eat some kind of like slurried nutritional mash, and then you go back to work for 12 hours.
I teased Avenir more and more about that as everything went on. Every time you'd turn down sweets and goodies and stuff like that. So I think at one point I was like, what, do you want some lukewarm tap water, Avenir? Like,
Cool, please, cool. And I had kind of thought about like maybe respecking him for this one, because the constant speculation on Avenir being a Demir agent was like, yeah, but he doesn't act like it. I don't get where this is coming from. Oh, it's just because he's a rogue. What if I made him, I don't know, a bard? But that doesn't really work because he isn't that kind of charismatic. And I don't know, I just kind of enjoyed how it worked.
Yeah, so judging by those chants, rogue.
Yeah, I finally got to, I think, pick a lock.
Oh.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And I don't know, I think it's appropriate that Avenir just like stabs people in the back really hard, right? Avoid combat, and then like when you have to, then it's time to kick some back.
Yeah, then when you have to be in combat, you hope that you kill them outright.
Yeah.
Because
you hit them with a log as
Yeah.
hard as you can in the kidneys.
Yeah, I feel like Avenir, the battle diplomat, really works for Ravnica, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he needs a relatively smaller bodyguard.
You get
Yeah.
really thinking about a bureaucratic bard, though.
For for everyone who's like, well, Avenir could be. There's somebody who's very upfront about working for the Dimir in the campaign. They're not represented.
Yes. Yeah.
And this one, I mean, overall, this campaign was also less guild focused anyway.
Yes.
But one of the someone who was indeed aligned with a guild, brand new character, Slock. What was character creation like for you? This is your first actual like D&D.
You've
thing.
never D&D'd before.
Nope.
D&D'd once.
I D&D'd once in Queer as Hell, but
Oh,
there
right,
was
yes.
it was very different being remote and also that was less D&D and more being queer in front of a camera and like following the story. I felt, which different things, both cool and good. And I like to think that Slock is the worst possible character, like as far as creation goes. Not this on the stats and on the paper,
Oh.
because I didn't know anything about that. So I just picked. He was supposed to be a druid, an elf druid, circle of the land swamp. But I didn't know how to make any of that actually reflect.
I think when you showed up with your character sheet, you were like level 5, but you had somehow had like 15 hit points or something like that.
22 hit
22
points.
hit points? Yeah,
Yeah,
we're just like,
it's just-
okay,
I think
let's take a peek.
my character got Slock's numbers got retooled 3 times over, maybe the first 5 episodes.
Born at level 5, never leveled up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big lad.
But I didn't even know what the campaign was about, that there was anything involving Swamp Ball or the Golgari or anything. I saw a photo of Tommy Lee Jones in college when he played football, and I was like, that's my guy. I just want it to be like a real corn-fed, like, he's the reason there are families that buy like 8 liters of milk every week. Sort of
right.
character.
He would be a Costco
Yeah.
shopper.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
you see Slock's mother at Costco with a shopping cart full of loaves of bread.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
she knows all the staff that work there.
Absolutely.
Stops and says hi to the sample people for like 10 minutes each.
And like a good down to earth kind of character that is just like maybe wasn't expecting to be put in this. Yeah, there it is. That's exactly the photo.
We said that to Featherweight.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe I think I said that he's capable, but he is out of his element and has kind of just been pushed into this position with the Chamber of Commerce out of the fact that he earnestly does his job and has not died. And so he's just kind of there.
But no, you're big, you're strong, you're obedient.
Yeah. I designed him to be all that, as well as in my head I had one phrase of like, what do you mean, when it came to like approaching things in the campaign of like, there's a locked door here, we can't get through, and Slock would be like, what do you mean? We just picked the door up.
Right.
And people are like, well, you can't do that. I'd be like, no, look. And they're like, yeah, we can't get through it. The locks are like, oh, well, then he should probably have heat metal because, if he's going to see this, he's like, oh, no, it's okay.
I do like that all of your every spell you cast in this campaign
So what-
started with you doing bad.
Oh, my spells suck.
what class is Slock?
He's a druid.
Yeah,
okay.
Circle of
Well,
the Land.
Right.
Circle of the
yeah,
Land
sorry, you
druid,
did say
yeah.
that. My bad.
So if I could interestingly, I just want to address that the original Bylaw Order did not feature Wheeler, it featured Surge, but Surge is not living here and is in fact moving back to Victoria soon, aka after the campaign was over. And given the pace of WotC releases, I really did not want to hold the campaign until after Surge came back.
I can't believe that we're finishing Bylaw Order in the middle of preview week for Thunder Junction.
Yeah.
I
when
know,
this was
it's
supposed to
been-
be part of the.
It's been 10 weeks.
It's funnier that we're capping it off as Surge is currently on the ferry to
Yeah.
get back onto the island.
So he can't defend himself. And
Yeah.
that's understandable.
He's
You
got no
wanted-
internet.
Yeah, you wanted an upgrade. And so you rolled in old Slock.
So well, it's really fun. So we did our big session 0 player meeting where I sort of like these guys. I was like, my biggest question for all three of these people is define your relationships now. I had a lot of questions for Avenir about what his boss was like. So Avenir sort of came up with his boss and described them, and then I think I came back another 2 times and was like, all right, this is Barrow, this is your boss. Based on what you've given me and what her goals are aligned with what you've told me about her in regards to the entire campaign. And I did similar for Nog, except Nog is sort of working at the agency, so Nog defined his scroll and stuff that he would radio into. Enor, I was like, what do you want? Who's your parole officer? And Enor, I was like, who are your friends from prison? I wanted to do a whole like prison art for you with you like getting involved with the mafia. And you were like, well, I didn't make any friends in prison. So I was like, great. But Wheeler came in so late, I had to take out everything that I was going to do that I had maybe like set aside. I was like, oh, maybe Nana Elga is like, has a financial interest in the Swamp Ball League or something like that. And so I was like, okay, I know it's really late and I don't want to restrict you, but it would be easier for me if you worked for one of the following guilds. And you were like, well, I want to be, I was like, hold up, just let me listen to this list first, please God. Because like I just wanted to start the campaign in like a couple of weeks. So I was like, Golgari, and he was like, yes, the Golgari. And I was like, perfect, you work for the Chamber of Commerce. What's your boss like? And that's how we got Tizia.
Yeah. Based off of a real boss that I have had.
Did I do her justice?
I think so. My real boss was not a bug, but certainly had that very like kind of motherly vibe, but also you're just like, oh, I'm just going to do what this woman says because she seems very powerful, albeit very small.
Yeah, small and powerful and very clever. You said she would be very clever.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right.
So while we have Featherweight with us and relating to sort of revisiting these characters after 5 years, I want to talk to Featherweight a little bit about that. First of all, among some other questions, I was also provided with some praise to heap upon you, just for generally your work across the whole campaign. But in particular, the fact that the 3 players who'd been in the campaign prior knew who Oghavan was as soon as seeing this art, despite never having seen art of Oghavan before.
That's a good point.
Wait, really?
He didn't have character art the first time.
Oh,
Because I knew what he looked like.
I knew what he looked like.
And didn't Featherweight just nail it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually forgot who Oghavan was and wasn't working from reference from the previous 3.
So I wanted to ask you, what was it like revisiting characters after so many years and doing new versions of folks?
I mean, it was fun because even over the course of the original campaign, the art like evolved like 3 times because I did like several iterations of the characters in that campaign. So being able to like revisit that and like, you know, tune the proportions, like get the little quirks that I worked out, like work back in and like, you know, bring them to life was really fun.
That's sweet. What was it like? Sort of. Can you talk about sort of your process from working from like working from the briefs and what sort of stuff Kathleen gave you, and then how you would work from there, and if there's a particular brief that you found particularly rewarding or challenging?
Well, like the briefs range from like very specific, like, you know, Oghavan is, you know, blonde-haired pretty boy who's very smug. I had to increase his smugness like twice through notes. But like, you know, then there's like Mr. Sausage, who was just like, we need a sausage mascot, and I was like, time to create something hideous.
I like that there's no organism that can fit into that suit.
I know. I was like, we were just like, I'm still trying to figure out the spine.
I am so glad we did not get closure.
Yeah.
Mr. Sausage.
Yeah, I don't want to know
like,
what's in.
Still, what's
Just some
inside?
entity
Yeah.
that was...
Is it a suit?
I mean,
That's the question.
those gloves aren't.
There's definitely an outer layer.
It's wearing something.
There's a casing.
Like, yeah, you can see the stitching, so there is, a wrapper on whatever it is.
Are we sure that's stitching?
I was gonna say, but if it is stitching, wouldn't it be even more messed up if that is also part of its skin? Like that's just how it is. Like some Pokemon are born with a sword.
Had to have surgery to remove the spine to become the mascot.
But like, even in my personal headcanon, I decided that it was either a Simic made, like, one-off, or a stack of goblins. I kind of left that ambiguous in my own mind.
So, so this is interesting. We'll talk more later about sort of like the broad strokes of the story, because obviously a lot of the murder mystery sort of had a set plot in what the NPCs involved in that did, and we'll come back to that. But while we have Featherweight here, I wanted to touch on, we would record the episodes and then get them on our server for working on for editing, and Featherweight had access to that and could look at it. And so, totally unbidden, some things that were created at the table ended up getting art, specifically Alvin Ear and Crolumbo.
Yeah.
And
There's Alvanir.
the reason that Crolumbo and Alvin Ear are even in the show is because there was a joke made at the table, this thing was created, and then Featherweight decided to do the art, and then Kathleen was like, well, if we have the art, we should use these things. So this was never originally planned. What was your sort of, I don't know, how do you feel about that, Featherweight, that you're just like, I've just decided to will this into being?
Well, like, the art for Crolumbo was finished before I was done watching that episode. It was just like, they said the word, and I opened the canvas, and it was just like, this is happening right now. Because I've actually listened to, like, Dandy Geek did an entire Columbo rewatch podcast, and I've listened to the entire thing. So it was like, okay, this must exist. And like, I was so happy when I saw the chat messages of like, the glass eye, he got it.
Columboys.
Does he smoke both cigars at once, or does he alternate?
I don't know. It seemed like a good little extra gimmick to add for, a Crawl Columbo to be fiddling with 2 cigars at once.
Given the way insects breathe, you don't want to know where those cigars go.
Just slip under the coat.
You have to be careful. We have to be careful what we lathe into existence around the table.
Yeah, I like the ones for smoking, ones for gesturing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, to
I like
prove a
that.
point.
Yeah. There was another question actually from Ben for you, Featherweight, which was that you designed a lot of alternate costumes for the characters over the course of it. Did you have specific ideas in mind that then of like memes or references? For example, Nog's party outfit is the Hello Fellow Kids.
Very clearly Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi. Yeah. Do you sort of have that in mind, and you're like, oh, this would be a funny idea to use on Nog, or do you start from the character and build out from there?
I try to match it with the character's personality. Like, Avenir got like the very like calcified idea of a cool person. Like he read that in a book once, and he was ready to imitate the children. So he's dressed like the fawns.
Yeah.
Love it.
Schlock was just like, this is what he looks like on the weekend anyway. Like, he is locked and loaded and ready for this.
Smash Mouth guy.
I do like that you bring on the sweatbands.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my original concept for Party Schlock, before coming up with the idea for Limit Break Schlock, was he would just take his shirt off and be ready to party. So it would just be like him shirtless flexing, but like, it would double up with the Schlochter Manhattan thing. So I went for this instead.
Slaughter Manhattan.
Yeah.
I have to know, is Slock a shorts guy?
Well, that's what Slock would prefer.
Right.
Slock walks around his apartment nude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about the process. Could we bring up everybody's final character transfer? So everybody had so much fun changing outfits in the first Bylaw and Order that I decided this time I wanted to do that more because everybody likes getting alternate art of their characters. So I was like, okay. So I wanted to have them play Swamp Ball, and when Wheeler was like, I kind of want to be like a sports guy, I was like, well, there's a sport called Swamp Ball, and he was like, oh, I play that.
Perfect.
I think in session 0, I was like, great, this means you can all play Swamp Ball. I'm going to come up with Swamp Ball, and I'll talk more about that
Yeah,
later.
we'll come back to that.
But for this, basically, I was at the end of and my instructions to Featherweight were, so they fed Bruna a mushroom that is going to make him sneeze highly hallucinogenic spores all over them, and they're just going to absolutely trip balls for 10 minutes, God willing that they miss their saves. So, they're also in a very magical environment, and how fun would it be if what they hallucinate also kind of becomes reality, maybe? It's very unclear what is going on. So, can you design them some cool hallucinatory outfits, and then I will design powers to go with them, and sort of make sure it all works out for the boss. My only input was I wanted Cameron to be a sphinx because Avenir has been studying Azor and stuff like that, and I
Yeah,
thought that would be the kind of thing he might hallucinate.
Yeah. Avenir's specialty was translating Sphingish. Sphinglish?
Sphinglish.
Sphinxish.
Yeah.
Sphingian.
Yeah.
Sphingian.
You
Yeah,
got it.
Sphingian.
All of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. And then you're a kitty again.
Yep. Yeah.
So how was this? I feel like this was a really strong art ask from you, honestly, Featherweight.
Well, like I came at this one with the concept of, the new super hallucinated mushroom was going to interact with stuff they've had before in the campaign. So that was like, the little nugget that I started with. And I believe at some point someone made like a very brief joke about Block becoming a Dr. Manhattan-like character because he ate everything all at once.
Right.
That would happen. So that was kind of like ready to go. And you even like made a joke about consenting to full nudity whenever. So
Oh, we did, yes.
so it was kind of perfectly lined up. So that was like the right off the bat first concept, easy, touchdown. The the Ian censorship was something I realized later that was like a solved problem. Just kind
Very
of-
good.
Happy to help.
The uncensored
now-
Slaughter Manhattan is available on the Patreon, the $500 tier.
It's
You can talk to Featherweight.
I'm glad I have a costume for next Halloween, though.
Yep.
I'm glad I left my beard long enough.
for Nog, it was the Mario mushroom in the mushroom lab where he got all swollen big.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my original concept was just like hulked out ripped shirt like Bruce Banner style. But then I realized I needed some way to include Valencia. And there's a hulk out guy with an animal partner he rides on. And it just lined up perfect with like, Schlock being the good guy hero who comes to save the day in his mind.
I love
So
they still
he
have
got
their
to be-
agency badges.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the agency badge comes the big key badge and like,
Well, I appreciate too that like Valencia on this hallucinogenic stuff sees herself as a battle cat.
It's
Yeah.
I like that Nog and Valencia are the same size relative to each other, but they're actually correct now for He-Man and Battle Cat.
Yes.
Like He-Man is about that size relative to Battle Cat in the actual things.
He-Man definitely has to like lift his legs when he's riding.
Oh, yeah,
around.
Battle Cat's way too big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you remember like the original He-Man figures, the legs were just like completely bowed so they could stick them on the battle cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's,
Everyone had
reference
the
was
same
checked.
body. Yeah.
trivia, Battlecat was actually from a different set that they recolored. It was a tiger. There was the wrong scale.
Incroyable.
Wow.
I
Yeah,
mean, molds are
He-Man and
expensive,
Skeletor
man.
use the same.
Yep.
The same mold.
Yeah, the same body. Yeah.
They're like painted green. We'll call it a magical cat. It's fine.
Cringer.
And then I infer that Ian's inspiration was psychedelics.
The
Like,
Yellow Submarine.
Like, Ian's was the hardest because you had to like give something that like he would want, and Ian was chasing the perfect high for the entire campaign, so just kind of like give him the full like. I went back to Kathleen. It was just like, what if Ian was just absolutely tripping, and I just went psychedelic rainbow style. And
I
it
really
worked
appreciate that
out.
he's still got the Jake Sisko outfit on too.
Oh my God!
Absolute. It's 100% TNG civilian wear. That is what I based it on. That is Everett Cochran's hat.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh man, it is.
Wow.
Oh wow, that's great.
I did not catch that. Okay.
What a great reference.
That's so good. Wow.
And Avenir was the kitty boy, which was Kathleen's lightning strike realization of like another thing that perfectly lined up. Because
Yeah.
my original concept for Avenir was going to be the living avatar of Mesh's boards. Because
right.
of his 10,000 year
board,
trip.
Right,
Yeah.
because you had experienced the
Yeah.
space
Yeah.
and time as a message board.
I have a half-finished sketch of Avenir, like, made out of wood with, like, a floating message board sign covered in notices.
That's
He
incredible.
became Twitter.
Oh, okay.
My condolences.
There's the Zephyr Cochrane hat.
Yeah. Wow.
Gekyoryu was asking, wait, so did they actually change? Were they just hallucinating? Would an outside observer have seen them as perfectly normal? And that was left ambiguous. And this is just me. This is my personal my fan headcanon, is that that is what an outside observer would have seen, because of the magical ley lines, the intense magic sort of field that they were all in. I relate it to the orcs from Warhammer 40K, where it's because they believe that red makes trucks go faster. If they paint the truck red, the truck will go faster because their psychic field makes that happen. Where it's like, because Nog believed that this is what would happen, and so the field would make that so. Kind of. That's my feeling on it. But then
When Millie showed up,
that could also be wrong.
she was very non-specific, just asking questions like, what's going on, right? Which could mean anything. So you could read whatever you'd like into it. But they did beat up into film, which I want to say props to Featherweight for this design.
Yeah.
Super
Which
cool.
influenced the powers and things that it had. Featherweight, before we let you go, do you want to talk a little bit about designing our big final boss monster?
Sure, like, I got the reference for the various Nephilim that have existed within actual magic, and they seem to fall into two categories. Tube with teeth, or floating evil monolith. So I kind of went swampy floating evil monolith. And, it's the big screamy head with tentacles, because tentacles are scary, and, I actually did like a 3D model of that head because I wanted to get like the volume of it correctly.
Oh,
cool.
Nice.
Nephilim VTuber.
Oh, I was just about to say I can't wait to see our modeling fans' takes on this, but maybe talk to me later about that head.
What's the color identity of this Nephilim?
I think it would be everything but white.
Yeah, green,
Probably.
Yeah, green, black, blue, red.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
green for the moss and the vines, blue for the bile it's spewing,
Black for
black for the earth and rotty stuff, and red because it's real angry.
yeah, red for it. Basically, it. Yeah, I'll get into more of its motivations later, but basically, Featherweight.
That was
like,
my thought process when making it.
Cool.
Yeah, Featherweight was like, "What about this?" And I was like, "That looks great. I will make some stats and attacks that work with that, because that's incredible."
It was this or even larger pig. So
I like this a lot.
Yeah, no, fighting a Nephilim is singular, Nephilite.
Nephilim.
Nephi.
Nephalese.
It's like, yeah, it's like moose.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, what a great deep cut from Ravnica. Well, not even like a deep cut, but like something extant and interesting, but not necessarily what you would immediately go to.
And rendered acutely terrifying.
Yeah, that was a horrible boss encounter. I gave you guys so many broken abilities, and it still probably almost killed you.
Yeah, no, we barely squeaked across the finish line.
Perfect, as intended.
It could not have been more perfect, though, that Enor is the one who got minds.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, yeah.
And
Yes.
you wrote it to be like, and you can, it's easy. You can break the enslavement. They just have to take some damage. And Enor was impervious to all damage
Yeah.
because of his abilities. So it was just like, so funny.
Have you ever played World of Warcraft and gotten a carry from like, your buddy who's raid geared, and you're just trying to like level an alt or whatever, and then your buddy gets mind controlled.
Oh, right. And then
wipes
just starts
the entire
whacking
party.
the crap out of you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just funny because it's like, so he had used, I think, like all of his spell slots essentially prior.
Well, he had a few spell slots left, but then Avenir made it so he couldn't cast any spells,
Right,
so I
so
had
he's
to
just-
have him go and hit things.
So he's this like unhittable dude who only can just like whack you with a stick, and it was very funny.
It's like my grandmother.
Yeah.
All right, Featherweight, we will let you take off so you can have 9-eye time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for contributing so much to this campaign and all the incredible art.
Yeah,
Thank you.
terrific work.
I wonder if
It
that
was a wonderful project to work on, and
Oh, good.
it was something to do for a couple of months there.
Hey, what was your favorite NPC you designed?
Oh,
Krolumbo.
no, it's got to be Pova.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pova was just like really landed on the crawl style I wanted to do, and she's Pova. You can't go wrong with that.
Pova rocks.
We love her.
I'm glad we didn't have to kill her.
yeah, the adorable bug
I can't
will
believe
unscrew your-
anybody mentioned killing her. I was like,
Very
Hey, look,
quickly.
you step
too.
into the swamp, and sometimes you got to play at 110%. And if that means you have to unscrew Pova's head like
You
A
don't
bottle
just
of
play
Tylenol.
you don't just play the game out in the swamp. You play it right here.
yeah,
Right
up
here.
here.
Yep.
And if you can remove any of those two things from your opponent, then
It's a
you'll
lot
be playing the
easier.
game more than they.
all right, thank you so much, Featherweight.
All right, cheers, Featherweight.
Bye.
Bye.
Toodaloo.
So I've got some questions from the Discord Q&A thread for everybody here. But before we get into those, I want to get Kathleen to just give me some sort of background on the campaign as a whole, because I know that this is something that you've been rattling around upstairs for years. 5 years.
Yeah. So after the first Bylaw Order ended, everybody really liked it, and it was I'll put Pova away. I'll bring up
Hey, there you go.
my favorite character from the first
Yourself
Bylaw
insert.
Order,
Return
myself,
imminently.
who's basically Franca is there to recap plot abilities, or not plot abilities, like plot stuff to you, and ask pointed questions as long as you stay on her good side. But she's very easy to convince to work with you, because I don't want her to be. I mean, she's just very helpful, and I'm sure she's doing it for your benefit and not her own agenda. But yeah, so basically, I wrote the thing. It came out, and it was really well received. I think it was at the time like the most popular thing that Wizards had ever done on their D&D channel that wasn't like hosted by one of like the big D&D players, and everybody really liked it. And I thought, gee, I would like to do maybe something more with that. So in 2019, I started thinking maybe I want to do a Christmas special.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't kind of get it to come together for Christmas 2019, but these are my notes from 2019. I was brainstorming ideas. Aftermath, sausage standard has been wildly successful. Sausages are better and people no longer get food poisoning. In short, thanks to you, productivity is way up begrudgingly. The 6th District Chamber of Commerce is in charge of the St. Malthus Day Parade and has summoned you because the Orzhov prelate, who was supposed to be leading it, is a no-show, because they're trying to come up with some sort of new tourism draw. And, basically it kind of turned out that maybe there is some sort of malfeasance between the Chamber of Commerce and Oghavan's older sister, Sevmila, who I decided was less interesting than Oghavan, so she could just leave for this campaign and go get promoted because it seems pretty reasonable. I was going to make her a secret Eastern District comic fan. Ian is my notes here. But I couldn't really get it to, coalesce well. All I knew is that the Chamber of Commerce was going to be somehow involved and going to be bad, and I wanted to have some sort of vegan sausage or some sort of aftermath to the sausage involved. And there's going to be some sort of warehouse, I thought. And it just didn't really work out. And then, as we know, 2019 turned into 2020, and then it got put on the back burner for a really long time.
Things just kept happening after that.
Yeah, it was just really terrible. And then in
Animal Crossing came out, and
That was a bright spot.
That just took out a bunch of time.
It's true.
Everybody took some time off to play Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after I was done playing Animal
That's how
Crossing.
future scholars will remember it.
Yeah. After I was done playing Animal Crossing, eventually I got an invite to work on creative text for a set that we now know as Murders at Karlov Manor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Murders at Karlov Manor. And you would have heard the scream from space when I realized I was going to get to work on a Ravnica set. I was extremely excited. And then I was like, oh, it's a murder mystery set. That's very interesting. Cool. And then after that creative text project was wrapped up, because I didn't have any time to work on that and do my other stuff at the same time, because this was fall 2021, and so Graham was kind of sick at the time and stuff like that. And you were also working on the creative text project, even though you were finishing up chemotherapy because you're very hardcore.
Yeah. I wasn't doing anything else.
Yeah. After I was done that, I was like, okay, maybe let's go back to my 2019 notes. If I know that they have a set coming out, and I'm going to guess based on when I'm working on this, I think it's the first set of January. I think it's the first set of 2024. So that means I have a whole year, 2023, to think about this, and I'm going to figure out. I bet I could do a murder mystery, because I already kind of wanted to have the Chamber of Commerce involved in malfeasance. And I already wanted to have something to do with sausages and warehouses, and what's more murder mystery than some sort of industrial malfeasance? And then I spent several months trying to work out the logic. I've got to get a piece of paper.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering if you had it. You're still on mic, so you can keep talking.
I spent several months trying to work out the logic of a murder mystery, because I had read some when I was doing the creative text just to get myself in the murder mystery state of mind. I read some Raymond Chandler books, which were really good, and that's who Marlowe is named after his main detective. And then after a few months, I came up with this. This took several days to do, and it has Obort Zunak Day, but then Obort Zunak Folk Hero, which never made it in, and the Ghost of Obort Zunak, which certainly didn't make it in because I thought he was much more interesting dead. The Chamber of Commerce was going to be some sort of friend of Obort Zunak's secret society. There was definitely going to be someone who was found dead that nobody liked, so multiple people could be immediately established as having credible leads, meaning that you could investigate your leads in any order that you wanted, which is really important when you're doing Dungeons and Dragons, that you're not tied into. You talk to this person, and then you have to talk to this person, and then you have to talk to this person. So I needed to be able to disperse the guilt, which is why there was 2 children that seemed like they had
Show me the paper.
equal things. There was going to be some sort of exciting mushrooms, because Ian had been quite interested in exciting mushrooms last campaign, and I thought he might be interested in that. There's going to be a swamp ball tournament, possibly, and a sports reporter from the 10th District.
Wait, one more time? With the paper?
There was, and then probably the biggest thing that we never got to was down here, which was going to be a huge deal, which was going to be this rival message board company that you actually met. You met at the thing Spoucho Guigan and Zelda Spivnox.
Oh.
But I had given Featherweight too much art to do. So I was like, you could probably cut those 2 because they're not super related. I just kind of was going to set up a fight, and I was going to let you two see I was going to let you guys determine what was going on and who was going to win and what they were fighting over. But there was too much stuff going on, and I didn't want this to go on too long. the University Psychedelic Appreciation Society was going to return. We remember from the first campaign, but then I thought, why don't we just give them a whole institute full of legitimate interests?
So something that you said in there relates to a question that I got from Farabender, which was for Ian. How did it feel when it became clear that Enor's interest in psychedelic mushrooms led to so much happening in the campaign, and it ended up almost being a theme of the campaign?
It was certainly not my intention for that to happen, but it was certainly turned out to be probably one of the most creative and most interesting parts of the campaign was the interactions with these mushrooms, because of course we had no idea what any of them were going to do and just kept running into them.
Well, I figured that you would like to do them. And then when we did our player, or that you would like to be, because that was something you were interested in last time. I was trying to think about what you had been interested in personally last time and try to bring some of those interests forward, right? So, like, I know that Avenir is very interested in, like, you know, diplomacy and stuff like that. So I figured it'd have to be like some kind of like moving with interests of power kind of thing. Randomly, I was like, if you were to do another Bylaw and Order, and this is like we were still at the old office. I was like, would you want to come back to the Boros, Ben? And Ben's like, no, I'd like to be a private eye. And I don't know how I kept a straight face. Because I was like, oh, really?
It's like, I want to be a detective, man.
Okay.
Yeah, you're like, neat.
This is before detectives were even a
No,
subtype.
we had.
So you're welcome.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, okay, that's cool. I could definitely make Nog in charge of solving whatever mystery is in to bring that in. But yeah, Enor, basically, I had mushrooms that you were trying to grow mushrooms in jail. You had no jail stuff, and I was like, what can bring Enor into this campaign? Why is he here? What expertise can he lend? And I thought if I put a mushroom MacGuffin in that only you could tell him information about.
Yep, and that certainly worked out quite well.
Yeah.
And we had Slock to eat them.
I kind of assumed you'd be eating more of them.
He's a very careful man, very meticulous. Wants to take samples.
Wants to find out what a mushroom's going to do.
In a safe space.
Not
He's not just going to
Slock.
quaff, but
I mean,
we got
Slock
this.
wants to find out what they do too.
Slock is a
by
safe space.
Firsthand, yes. Slock's
yeah.
safe space.
Now, I feel like I kind of know the answer to this. This is the second half of Farabender's question, or not? This is another question from Farabender. But were there any major plot points or twists that needed to be significantly revised?
Yes. Basically, I tried not to come up with too many. Like, it seems weird, but I was like, all right, if I give a bunch of people a different motive, but I make it so he was poisoned, so he can't just raise his ghost and tell him what was going on with this psychedelic mushrooms, which Enor said he was trying to grow in
Sure
prison.
tried to get that information out of him.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, they had to do.
Ghost
you know
was
what,
still absolutely zooted.
you know what they did in the official Magic story? Ghost's not home right now. She'll come back later. It's incredibly difficult. So basically, that was the most elegant way I could come up with to not just tell you what had happened immediately. But I was just like, okay, so I'm just going to put a bunch of things out here, and we'll see where their suspicions lie, and maybe we'll get more in that vibe and zone and stuff like that. And it was, yeah, I don't know. I didn't have a lot of things like. It sounds weird, but I knew what information you'd be getting, but I didn't really know people's motivations until we had our session 0, and just keeping the information that coming out from sources that they were going to be talking to changed how those sources were involved in the mystery, if that makes sense, right? The Swamp Ball team had to also then have people who were going to be in the Mycological Association, because you needed to get more information about how he would be poisoned from people you were already going to have met. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the challenge, not to speak for you, but one of the biggest challenges for this whole thing was putting together a mystery campaign that isn't immediately or quickly, several episodes in, solved, not just by the players, but by the viewers who arguably have a lot more time to absorb and think about all this information.
Correct, yeah.
And so, figuring out a way to sort of make that kind of flow happen. Relatedly, Richard's asking is curious of the players, like, how much of a handle do you feel like you had on the mystery as things were developing?
Well, I mean, at least I felt that it was very up in the air. But that's also very, I feel, appropriate for a mystery, right? Like, the detective never knows who the murderer is until, until they know who the murderer is. That's when the story stops, right? Like, things don't come together until they do. So I was prepared to be very sanguine about it. And one of the problems I've always run into in DMing is the players don't have the skills that the character has. And if those are skills that are necessary to advancing the story, it's not always satisfying for that kind of thing to be resolved in a die roll. So, long story short, I was not prepared to have to Cameron to have to solve a mystery. Because I can't. I have no idea who killed him, because I'm not trained to do that. So I assumed Kathleen would be developing her story in accordance with that, and would feed us things as appropriate to make it satisfying for both the audience and the players. And
yeah, I think, like, for me, it was like I straight up, I had no clue. I think going into the finale was how, but like, it's just like, but the finale was amazing because everything that I would love to see if there was a like tracker throughout like the episode, because it's just like that many like little neurons kind of like connected together for so many things.
There was a lot of that in chat during the
Yeah,
broadcast,
yeah, right. So it's like, but like realistically, it's an interesting sort of dynamic where, when you're watching a murder mystery, right, you're kind of, trying to piece it together in your head, and the storytelling aspect of it is purposely withholding things from you so that like you can have this big reveal sort of thing, right? So now when you're in a position of D&D and performing in D&D, where it's like Kathleen wants to relay this information to both us and the audience, it kind of hit a point for me where I was like, we're also sort of coming along on this story and this adventure sort of a thing, and it's up to us and the audience to sort of pick it up as it's going along. So yeah, it was like an interesting challenge that like by the end of the thing was like, this all makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. Again, same boat. No idea what was going on through the entire thing. However, it was very, I think, skillful to actually have us spend more time speaking with characters to get the information. Like we did a lot of investigation, which involved sending things back to the lab to be analyzed, which would then result in a character interaction to get the information, rather than just looking at a thing, rolling a dice, and saying, "Yep, you investigated well enough. There you go."
Yeah, I don't love that about role play. Like I didn't want your opportunity to get information to be shut down by a single bad die roll, because that grinds the campaign to a halt. Because the answer can't be like, well, the Nog rolled a 4, so you don't get a clue.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you had multiple opportunities to speak to people again and again, to ask them different questions. Franco was there just to sort of be like, maybe Franco will just ask you some salient questions right at the Swamp Ball game about things that you might have overlooked, but you guys, I think, had a really good handle on it by that point. And the important thing was that I always had a list of facts that the NPCs would tell you. There's always the most basic stuff that they'd always just offer you up. And then there was more stuff that they would reveal if you asked them. And so I have probably hundreds of lines of unused dialogue, because I would try to think about every question you could ask an NPC and how they would answer in character. And my rule is the NPCs always had to be honest, or like in the way that that they would only ever lie to you in a way that would get them through zone of truth, which I thought was fair. Nobody told you anything, and a lot of characters told you very small and subtle things. Like I think the first time you talked to Franca, she said, "I've heard whoever has access to this omen path is being uncharacteristically unprofitable about it."
I hope that and you'll have to let me know, viewers at home, I hope that going back through and watching again now that you know how things are ending up, I hope you will have little light bulb moments throughout as you see all the seeds being sown over the course of it.
So, I'm a mystery guy, and I feel like by the end of episode 3, I figured out that it was accidental death. But
Good.
Slock doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting experience, especially not knowing how to Dungeons and or Dragons. It's just like, okay, well, I know that this is what's happened, but there's no way this hunk of dumbass has picked this up. And also, it's not a race, right? And so it was kind of this journey of getting to that point and then having this separation of, like, even after that, like by episode 6, where Wheeler is still just like, this is an accidental death. I don't know exactly how it happened, but I have 2 options as to like what happened to him. But then Slock just kept changing. Like in story, it was like, okay, well, was it an accidental death, like in quotations, set up by one of these people, or is there something that has yet to be mentioned that ended up causing some kind of like naturally occurring event or whatever? And I got to a point where I felt like I dug in my heels so much as a person and a player, but as the character, I was like, do they know about the mole? Do they know about Ansrag? Like, trying to really narrow down, like, is this a thing that I know from the game? Or is this a thing that, like, these characters could be like, okay, well, there's this mole god that kind of bust out and caused a bunch of trouble that may have caused, like, a seismic event that could have just conked what's-his-nuts on the head.
I want to throw sort of a curveball, actually, at you, Kathleen. This is a question from me. The first campaign, the sausage one, was as this one also is very much drawing from a lot of your inspirations of Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett, and was dealing primarily with like the draconian systems of like public policy and things like that.
The first one was all about the guilds.
Yeah. But literally the bylaws, the rules and regulations sort of thing. And if I recall, speaking out of class here, that some of this began as theming around gentrification and things like that, and ended up in sort of a different place that you laid out in the episode 9 open of.
Could have done a better job with that, but I was in a hurry.
To visit a place is to change it.
Yeah. Which I think sort of speaks to a theme that's going on in Magic right now. To have things from everywhere going somewhere makes it a little bit less like that somewhere that it is, and a little bit more like everywhere else. And is that good or is that bad? And I think different characters had different opinions on how good and bad that was. Like Bruna and Tizia thought that was good because they would get money. More on Bruna's actual motivations in a minute. The agency saw no problem with that, but Cameron's boss was kind of against that, and I think the Azorius in general are kind of against that because of every time someone from off-plane has come to Ravnica, it's been a disaster, to be honest, and so they were far less bullish on this, and were not as interested in, oh, look, we didn't get a very nice write-up in this book.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, Ravnica has had 2 major interplanar events in the last couple of years, and they were both extremely bad.
Yeah.
So, I think Ravnicans are probably quite cautious and suspicious around interplanar travel. And I think other people probably also look at Ravnicans and are like, there is 1 trillion of you?
Yeah.
It's an entire plane that's a city. There's got to be like, Ravnica, there must be more people living on Ravnica than there are in the rest of the multiverse.
Possibly. Well, I don't know, but I mean,
There's a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, a busy, a flight arrives from Ravnica, through the Omen Path, and
it's
suddenly,
full of people.
yeah, it's a transfer bus on Ravnica, but it injects 10,000 people onto your plane and adds enough matter from just them visiting the Porta-John that like it disrupts your biome for the next 12 centuries.
Yeah. But and meanwhile, on Ravnica, there's just basically people going, oh, we can sell them things. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty clear too when you showed us the actual like design for the entire like stadium and surrounding area too,
Yeah.
where they're just like, this is the, you know, like the casino or whatever, and the hotel and blah blah blah, and you're like, oh, and we have this little nature path in the middle. That's the preservation area
yeah.
kind
God,
of thing, and I
it
was
was
like,
So
This is how we get a grant.
yeah.
it was so on point. It made my blood boil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my
And then
Sessions was very stressful for me because of that.
So I mean, yeah, like you've already touched on. Like my question was going to be sort of like, how did your themes of like, what if anything that you were trying to say with the story came across? How did that inform certain things? And you sort of addressed some of that already. But.
So in my Google Doc, which is truly massive, and I think Paul has I don't want to share my whole Google Doc with everyone, but Paul can show you guys my table of contents, which it's 141 pages long. It is 46,000 words for this, but I have a thing for theme, and it's change versus tradition. What the 6th District is. Intro to each episode has an entry from the guide explaining a relevant piece of information on Ravnican society, and then the campaign intro. This is the first thing I wrote when I actually started to seriously write it, was rejoice when calamity finds itself among your people, for mayhem is the root of opportunity, which is one of those quotes that got up there. But that is basically, there has been a big mayhem, but there is a lot of opportunity around, and are people going to be using it to exploit and ruin this place, or just to benefit it?
I got another. This is relatedly. I got another question from Tempest on the Discord, which is for the players. Is there anything in your character's sort of background or a piece of lore that you decided about the character that didn't necessarily get shared on camera during the campaign? Just like, it's okay if the answer is no, but you know, if it's like, oh, fun fact about this character, you know, now's a fine time to share that stuff. Wheeler smirking.
I thought Slock would wrestle more. Like I definitely saw him as like a, you know, he worked at the orchards, like farm boy kind of thing. I just imagined that I had a feat, a very special, like special feat where I would swamp ball tackle somebody out of danger, and I never got to use it, and it felt very like. At the end, I kind of just wanted to use it on somebody else that wasn't in the party.
Right.
Just to
do it?
Yeah, just to scrap, you know? Maybe one of those Gruul members at the concert.
Yeah, somebody falls down in the pit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
or somebody drops their glasses. And I go to feet to save the glasses in the pit.
There was a period of time, this isn't really a thing that didn't come out. There was a period of time where I was going to kill Nog. before we ended up doing this. Yeah. Well, it was a conversation that I'd had with Kathleen where I actually was like, at this idea that Nog fell in love with a centaur in the Gruul clan. And then the Phyrexians came and he died in the invasion. So I was going to have this centaur now looking after Valencia kind of thing. And that was how I was going to swap to being like a ranger sort of a thing. And then we were just like, or what if he's this goofy PI? And we're like, that also sounds like a lot of fun.
Something came up after one of the episodes closed on us talking to our bosses.
Yeah.
And Tizia talked to me, or talked to Slock, about, you know, how we need to, after the Swamp Ball team got locked up, and it was like, we need to steer this away from it being anybody related to the Golgari, even if this was somebody from the Golgari responsible.
And lo and
And I didn't message you about it because I internalized this possible course of action to be more selfish than I wanted to be surrounding a campaign that is a collaborative effort. But I want to be like, can I just betray them? Like, can I be, could Slock be willingly just incompetent at the job to, like,
Sandbag it?
yeah, to try if
By them,
it
do you mean
did
the-
steer towards the
party
Golgari.
or the Golgari?
To
Like who? Betraying.
the party.
Oh wow.
In the name of making Tizia happy.
Right.
And I'm, kind of glad that I didn't do it, but it was always kind of at the back of my head
That's
as like,
interesting.
there's a nut of, does he just try to make Mama proud?
Like we find an integral piece of evidence and it disappears, kind of a thing. Or
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
kind of
something
thing,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So one of the things that I thought might have been relevant, but it never really came up, is I thought it would be interesting because Bruna said, well, Bruna told our Sovani, our very stressed out architect, let me bring up his art because we only talked to him once. I got a lot of compliments from how realistic the portrayal of the engineers were, by the way. Bruna basically told him that he was absolutely unwilling to compromise. Because he wanted to have that whole thing built. And we find out later why he's like that. Tizia would have been fine with just building the stadium. But you guys never sort of like got that information back to her that Bruna was really weirdly uncompromising. So that could have opened up a whole thing where you guys could have somehow started working more for Tizia than you were actually working for Bruna, if that was something you were interested in, and maybe that's how you would have ended up killing him in the end.
It didn't, to me at least, it didn't come up as like raising any alarms because it's like piece of shit is piece of shit.
That's
More
true,
news
that's
at
true.
11,
I
right?
think that's why we were just like, we have the opportunity right now to blame all of this on the rich white
Yes,
guy.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And
Yeah,
none
like-
of us even batted an eye at it,
Yeah,
right?
no.
Like-
Featherweight's work here to like, I hate this man.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I hate this man.
That chin's
I-
gonna come off.
I want to crack an egg on his forehead.
There's
Smack.
I never came up with any of this stuff, but what I like to do is come up with like worst case scenario. The players don't think of anything and go, I don't know what to do. DM, what should we do? Right? Which never happens, but it's good to think about because those are usually the least interesting ideas that you will come up with, and then you can come up with better ideas later. And I thought one of the sort of back pocket ideas was maybe that you guys sort of start working with Tizia and the Golgari to find out what Bruna is actually doing, and that is what causes you to start digging into his past and finding these things out. And so, but it never came up, and it didn't need to be done. So I have all of these like things that might have happened but then never did, right?
Depending on the path the players wind up.
Yeah,
like,
depending on who you talk to and what information you really focused in on and stuff like that.
I think this relates really well to a question from 321 Pants Off, which I'm going to answer first, which is what was your favorite bit that was improvised or said on the fly that became established lore or canon? Because speaking of Bruna specifically, right, like his ultimate end and indeed everyone's psychedelic state in the last boss fight is because Enor fed Bruna one of the mushrooms that Dale wrote.
Yeah.
That was all just, this all just sort of happened, and then you were like, oh, this is
Perfect.
is great.
This is great. Now I don't have to explain anything he's doing because he's just tripping balls. He's high as balls.
Can we
That's
get
what.
purple version of
Yes.
that?
That's why we.
Yeah.
I love that his toupee is
Yeah.
going off. It's so good.
That's all Featherweight. So when you guys walked by the site and you saw all those containers with insignia being loaded in, if you had investigated, but I said that it looked pretty normal because it did, it all would have been explosives because Bruna was ordering explosives to the bog to blow it up. I also did. This is also fun. I did have, if you had wanted to sneak in, I had all of that because I tested that out in one of the sessions I ran at MagicCon Chicago. Angel broke into the after sausage warehouse.
Nice.
Right, because you ran 2 little one-shot sessions at MagicCon Chicago,
Yes.
where players were working for Alveneer.
Yes. Alveneer. They had to, the first group of players had to find him in the bog, where he was being menaced by that shambling mound because they were all level 1 and that would have just killed them. But he could just suck up hits indefinitely.
Right.
They had to break him out of being menaced by a shambling mound and save the contraband that he was smuggling out from the crappy omen path in the middle of the bog, which was Rubik's Cubes from Kaled Sheesh is what they thought they were. So anybody who was in that knew that the Omen Path went to Kaladesh. And then the second one, there was 2 message board postings. And the second one, they had to escort 2 people through the 6th district to have a good time, and it was Tyvar and Arnie Metalbrow.
Oh. the strong boys.
The strong boys, because they wanted to go fight and fish. So the players also took them to the bog, which was great because they got to do both.
So I distracted on that sort of sidebar.
Yeah.
But what is there something notable that jumps out to anybody as like a thing that was just sort of like, I'm gonna improv this, or I'm gonna even say this as a joke, and then it became the truth of the campaign?
I mean, I think in the first campaign, I came up with Fountain Ball as Avenir's like sport, and then made a joke that it had been broken up into Plains Ball and Island Ball in antitrust legislation. And so naturally, Swamp Ball, is the
And then I made a whole rule set for it.
yeah.
Which incorporated everything that the players had previously said became true.
In fact, in episode 7, I believe I said, hey, what was it about Swamp Ball again? And I just asked you to define what the 5-second rule was and what the Smelt it, Dealt it rule was. And I was like, anything else? And you guys wisely didn't give me too much to work with.
Which, by the way, here is the we have the
Oh, there we go.
Wow. Good on you for writing a table of contents in your notes.
It's the only way to keep it straight.
Yeah.
Damn, I would never think to do that. You were saying something, Ian.
Carson D. Cackler. That was the other
Yes.
one that
Right.
you'd come up with, Cameron. I had completely forgotten that was extant when I decided I was living inside an abandoned Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, the Ravnican or the Rakdos Chuck E. Cheese franchise.
Carson D. Cacklers. Was that Kathleen?
So you can see there's the lines and veils, which I think is the most important thing to include in anything, is just like, what do we not want to do? And then the plot threads is obviously Nog's in charge of solving the murder. Enor wants to find the drugs. And then anything that you added to this, like along these lines, or anything you invented would be then added to this, right? And this is where my like backup notes would go. Of course, Avenir was in charge of finding the Omen Path, and Slock was in charge of getting the stadium built at any cost, because originally maybe Slock just would have been an NPC, or probably just would have been Tizia's unnamed assistant. But then you were elevated from to a full player. So you had the least exciting motives of do what your boss tells you to do, unfortunately.
I don't think Slock needs that much motivation to hang out with people and do a lot of shrooms. And also just try to emulate Columbo.
Was that Paul?
I was just gonna say, as a viewer, because I was also a viewer while I was
Paul was here the whole time.
In fact, Paul was our first viewer of each episode.
That's true.
Number 1 fan.
And as somebody who, I'm relatively familiar with D&D, and I'm kind of into this sort of mechanical stuff, but I did very much enjoy, and I've seen this before too, people who are new to D&D, there's certain things that you kind of expect for experienced D&D players, and I really enjoyed how Slock kind of, did things that you wouldn't expect and different things. Like there was all sorts of stuff with I think it happened quite several times where everyone was like, well, you're a druid, so obviously you've got pretty high wisdom, so we're going to do this. And then it's like, wait, hold up. One sec.
I think, or even just like the fact that you're just like, how many are there? And there's like the 10 of X thing on the table, and you're like, I take 7.
Yeah, I'll take
And
them
you
all.
just kept taking things, and
that
it's just like,
one,
because you have no notion of like how much shit can my character
that one's a
carry.
me. That's
Yeah.
a Wheeler thing. Of like, ooh, something for free.
I also really liked the, you were like, hey, can I turn into that bird over there? And, me who has I'm looking up the rules and stuff, and it's like, well, technically Wild Shape has all sorts of requirements, and flying creatures are a whole thing, but Slock doesn't really know that.
Did that get included in the episode?
I think so.
Like me thinking that you had to
Seen it that
actually
day.
see the animal that day?
I think that got in there.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it
I
makes
didn't watch every episode.
it made sense to me at the time.
Or just the concept of, I think it was like you had to see it at some point during the campaign.
Yeah.
So it was just like up until the campaign started, Slock had never seen an animal in his life before.
I know that you mentioned the character earlier, Marlowe.
Yeah.
Only existed because Nog nailed that thing to
Correct.
the wall.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
the
that was just for that. And also, I was like, I need a way to get you foolproof and perfect information about financial stuff. Because one of the things they do a lot in cop shows, they pull people's financial records, and no one did that. So that's why the agency was eventually just like, I've done this for you, but here's someone you can talk to. Marlowe was basically, I was like, wow, Nog has given me this gift of a perfect NPC who wants something from him and is willing to do him a favor. What would be the most helpful thing for the party? I know, a forensic accountant, so we can make both children look guilty. But in an interesting and different way that will lead to the right thing.
That was a question from Sarah Serenday on the Discord as well. Yeah. Were there? Actually, I'm gonna skip ahead here to this is there was a question about it on the Discord from Ori, but also Jordynne, the editor, was very insistent that we ask about this. The origins of the various spoof band names that showed up in the thing, because there was a bit in the last episode where there was like a timeout and you were sort of explaining a thing that didn't actually make it into the episode. So please talk about the origins of these bands.
Okay, so this is also indulgent for me. And what do I like? Bands and concerts. I wanted to make the big finale a concert so I could role play my own perfect concert. And I knew it would be at the After Sausage Factory because I sort of had the Ogavin plot kind of worked out. Not 100% to be completely honest with you, but it all kind of came together over the course of running the campaign. So I called the show The Factory, and somebody in chat was immediately like, like the 1980s one. And I was like, oh my God, they got it. This means I can go really deep with these references. So I looked up The Factory, I just went to Wikipedia, and I looked up all of the big bands that had played there in the 1980s. And then I was like, okay, which ones can I make magic card puns about? So we have Gang of Three, which is of the Zossel BC Guarana band, which is Gang of Four. We have Happy Obsidays, which are Happy Mondays. We have New Border, which is New Order.
Yeah, which is really
Very
inspired.
good,
Very
very
good.
And then we have the Doretti column instead of the Doretti column. But the bands that you saw were not those bands because I decided to put together a show I wanted to see. So the opening act, because I did describe them as being, actually Slock described them. You are the one who made them all musicians. When you said that you had seen Zossel and you're like, oh yeah, I was in a band with this guy. And I was like, really? You were in a band with this guy?
Oh,
Tell me
yeah.
all about it. Or I was like, perfect. Now this guy is in the band, and that he'll be one of the people playing there, and that will connect him to what's going on somehow. Perfection.
Again, Slock is not me, but a lot of the things that just happened through improv may have also happened similarly to me, such as being in a band with somebody that looked like this and
Somehow
that
was a drummer.
wanted too many drums.
So this was a band called Horse Lords, which I have a Horse Lords t-shirt, and I adore this band.
What was the name of it in the campaign?
Gang of Three instead of Gang of Four.
Oh, okay.
So we got double
So the
references
names were
here.
referencing bands from the factory.
But the sounds that I described are all based off real bands, and their band was based off Horse Lords. The second band that sort of had like the cool, trendy music with the exotically bored-looking people, that's based off a British outfit called PVA. And they have a very fun song called Divine Intervention. I think I've listened to about 50 times now, probably, just vibing on it. The third band was Fuck Buttons, which I've seen live, and they're great. And then the fourth band was Amyl and the Sniffers, who are incredible if you haven't seen them live. But
Right, you read me the description of them, and I was like, is this Amyl and the Sniffers? And you were like, yes! I was very proud of myself, because I wouldn't have gotten anything else that she just said.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was just for me. I just wanted to put together a showcase of bands that I would really enjoy. Zossel was almost a mud monster. Ooh.
Oh, it says Featherweight. Oh, okay. Right, because you were just like, give me 3 Golgari kids that play swamp ball.
Yeah. I said, could you make them look cool?
Right.
Make them look cool.
You said no to the swamp monster.
I did say
no
no
to
to-
the mud monster.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, Mud Monster might have been leaving too many tracks.
Too easy to prove or disprove.
Yeah, but I really like Zossel. I think I dated a guy that looked like Zossel in high school.
I think a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He played bass when I dated him.
The drum guy also played bass.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, he started on bass.
And there's BC, and there's Guarana, and they're just a bunch of cool kids.
Nice.
The Swamp Ball kids do a little bit too much, but it all works together. So one of the other things that was kind of fun is that Zossel also works for the Institute of Experimental Mycology and does the layout on that journal. And you never searched his desk, and you never found the literal miscut guide sheets that were in his recycling bin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I figured you would get the information elsewhere, and you were key. And I really wanted to do this rooftop chase scene because Ben had said he wanted to do a Naked Gun kind of thing, and I thought, what's more Naked Gun than a ridiculous chase scene, right? With all sorts of crazy powers and stuff like that. And at first it was
Kind of
just
turned into a Mario
Yeah.
chase too a little bit, which was great.
Actually, last one from the Discord from Matthew Murray was were there any of the mushroom effects that other people make? Because you put out feelers to a bunch of folks
Yes.
that we didn't see.
I think you guys ate almost all of them.
Because like you designed some, obviously. Dale, Michelle Rapp designed some.
Yeah,
Penelope designed one.
Penelope designed the cat mushrooms, and I thought, well, that just would make an even better chase scene, wouldn't it? Let's see. I think most of them. Okay, the ones
There
you
we
didn't
go.
eat.
Oh, I love my tail. So bushy.
Well, Slock popped up first, I think, and at the time I was like, "Oh, we're turning into Tanukis."
Yeah, but
because there was like a very clear like Mario-esque theme going
My
on.
balls aren't nearly
Yeah,
large enough.
yeah, and then the rest popped up, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're cats. Gotcha."
But yeah, the Project 4B, 4WB, you didn't have that one. The consumer experience is a mystical. The consumer experience is a mystical experience where their consciousness is merged with their higher self. A Canadian internet comedian.
Oh, dear God.
Who wrote this one?
I believe that was Jason. And we never had Calmarian Weepcap, which is the one that Heather did, not Heather in the office, one of the DMs that I pulled for this. And Aurora appears before your eyes. You can see through it just fine, sometimes even better than normal, but it's distracting. Pretty. You gain advantage on your next perception or investigation check, but after that you have disadvantage on perception and investigation until your next short rest. You smell intensely of dragon fruit.
So there's an Aurora located entirely inside their vision.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and you never.
No, apparently.
You also never ate the indigo milk cap, although you were carrying these, and God, you could have. The flesh is pallid to bluish in color, slowly turning greenish after being exposed to air. Its taste is mild to slightly acrid. The flesh of the entire mushroom is brittle, and the stem, if bent sufficiently, will snap clean openly. Your fingers turn into small pink insects. There's little sensation in them, but you can use them to pick up small objects, and they can detect magical items upon touch.
That was the thing that I really wanted to do, was because I had all these mushrooms on hand, even after basically saying, like, okay, you get one of each. I still had 10 hair nets,
Yes.
and I wanted to use them. I wanted to put them all together and use them as like a bola and just whip the mushrooms in the mouth of like the Nephilim or whatever, which is why I asked, like, hey, can this Nephilim get high?
I would have let you do any of those ones in there.
Okay.
But I was strongly, so the other way, because I really wanted you to have magical powers at the end, and they were those zoom caps, the superior zoom cap. If you had eaten one of the zoom caps, it would have done the same thing.
Oh.
So I was like, don't. Well, I guess I could have just said there's no effect.
Did I not eat? I
You-
feel like we
You
talked
took
about
4,
eating.
but you didn't eat any because you're already tripping on spores. So there's like, if I wanted anything to happen, there's always 2 ways to make it happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mentioned Jordynne as the primary editor for this, and Jordynne also has put together a little highlight reel. These are Jordynne's highlights of the campaign, which we will watch, and we'll be here in picture. And then when we come back, if there are any other questions from you in the live chat, we can look at some of those. But first, or for now, for the next few minutes anyway, let's take a look at. In case you missed the campaign, here it is again briefly.
Oh, I've never. No, I saw the intro on the first day.
He does like the eat, but then kind of like
Behind the-
behind the neck, and like drops it so that Valencia like eats it behind because she doesn't care.
Slock, make me a notice children's magic trick check.
I rolled a nat 20.
You definitely noticed this.
Yeah. But I'm impressed by how well he did it.
Okay, so there's still some appreciation there. All right.
Delicious.
Whoa, where did it go?
I heard you went to prison.
I'm not resisting the hug. I'm not resisting the hug. I'm not resisting the hug. I'm not resisting this hug.
Oh, wonderful. Is that consent for more hug?
I am not resisting the hug.
Could I offer you a breadstick? No. Okay. Sausage only. Wait, do you eat this? Do you eat sausage?
He's literally like gritty. Like he just like emotes at you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Number 1. Sing with the Selesnya. All are welcome to join the Selesnian World Soul Choir. Gather, hug, and sing popular standards such as You Belong with Tree.
I hate all of these.
Dancing in the Park. Like a Prayer, bracket to Matt Selesnya. Ravnica, I bless the rains down in. And This Is How We Do It.
I love that.
Of course. This is
Acoustic guitars available on a first come, first served basis. Plenty available. Have you seen my 3 boys?
Your 3 boys.
My sons, my tiny centipedes.
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. We ran into 3 very handsome young centipedes.
This little turns in a circle and says they are handsome, aren't they?
They said they actually had really important business to attend to that could only be done by them because they're so good at their jobs.
Oh, maybe they're getting me a Mother's Day gift.
God.
Yeah, they on their way out, they
were so
said
quick
something
with the
about how much
centipede
they
mom.
loved their mom.
Whoa.
Oh my god. Oh my god. No freaking way, dude. It's Columbo. Oh.
Like to just barge in and open the door?
Nope. I throw the torch at it.
You throw.
Trusty torch.
Does the torch have a name yet?
I mean, we should now, right? It's a part of us.
Jonathan.
All right, Jonathan Torch.
All right. As Jonathan Torch blobs against the door with like a sort of a gentle, underhanded lob, I assume.
No, it's Jonathan Wick.
All right, Jonathan Wick is rudely bisected by a Waldron. But you have to describe a fountain ball play that reminded you of this time.
I have no idea what a sports play sounds like.
Rules. Cameron.
Okay.
Let's go.
The people in the seats near the front are very impressed as Avenir sports really hard. The sporting that he did was so good, in fact, that the other team also thought it was very good. And they all stood around and clapped. And when the teachers made everyone handshake afterwards, nobody spat in their hand before shaking Avenir's hand. That's how good he sportsed.
Wow.
And then I got hit in the chest with a lacrosse ball.
So you can all hold hands. You guys can just think about holding hands. All right.
Wait, I'm up to no good with somebody's wife?
Someone hired me to watch Naganog because he was cheating with the wife.
I don't have a wife.
Nog, that's low, dude.
Wait, no, hold on, no. You're supposed to be on my... Hold on, that's what I used to do all the time. What?
Somebody's wife?
Vogos looks and goes and says, yes, every day it weighs half as much as it did the day before. We've established a mathematical pattern.
Oh, right. These are
Is it
math
divided by 2?
Having as much. Not just simply dividing in half, but having exponentially.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yeah.
It's like when you use up half of your monthly budget before the first half of the month, and then
Right.
you use half of it after that, and then you keep cutting it down by half so you never run out of Xenos. It's sort of a
that's a really
Xenos paradox.
I've been relying on the trickle down Xenos that
Let me
that
just
have been
write
talked
down
about for
Ian
years.
Horner.
Cue some box text, which I guess plays as you're on the subway. sort of a loading
Oh, it's the
screen.
loading screen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Press C to crouch behind chest-high walls.
Why do I think that in like a loading screen where they have like a little image of something that's like moving back and forth and like now loading is in front of it? It's all of us on a trolley cart and Avenir running like after it. It's all silhouettes, and then it's Avenir running, and that's the
the
bar,
loading
right?
bar?
When it
Yeah.
catches, that's the end of it.
It's just referring to Darjeeling Limited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Power Man's playing.
If anybody does want to turn this into a video game, let me know. I've got notes.
If you take these red ones with these purple ones, you will jump really high and really far.
Sounds neat. And
I
then
guess it's kind
they'll
of like the Super Mario Brothers experience.
It's like being Luigi, but without the cuckolding.
You need the third mushroom for the cuckold.
the elves come up to you and they sing this song.
2, 3.
Oh, right.
Boompa, scoopa, bloopity bark. Do you want to hear dog snark? For 1 hour she will speak. Does this your interest pique?
What do you get when you're eating dog's tongue?
Do you find it to be tasty and fun?
So yeah, so the book.
Whatever happened to the one they call Nog?
Now
We
you
fall
will.
in to a deep bog. I don't like the sound of that. Boopa, scoopa, bloopity blail. This mushroom was made by Dale. Over the next 2 full days, you will have these always.
Actually, let me help you with this. A total loss of appetite, purple skin causing fright, heightened senses, squeaky voice, immunity from the gas of choice.
Healing might make it go away, or make it stay for another day. And after your time is done, you'll need to sneeze just the one. And when you reach that 15,
Still better than the
just
glass
be sure to tell Kathleen. Boopa, scoopa, bloopity blod.
This is before that,
will
too.
make you groan, by God. For us only a few seconds pass, but you must spend years as a board in grass. Do you read what people post? Clubs, petitions, and ads for most. Pinned up hope or love or sex. Citizens' needs surely are complex.
The alter ego says that you have advantage on all roles that you don't have proficiency in, and disadvantage on all roles that you do have proficiency in, and believes they name as Blorb.
Lorb?
Blorb.
Has anything changed, like physically or anything?
I think this is more of a psychological effect.
Okay.
Am I supposed to see something?
I don't know.
Slock, you look exactly the same.
Yeah? You think I look the same, do I? And who's this Slock character, see?
Okay.
It's Blorb, damn it, Blorb.
We need to have like an intervention about these mushrooms.
I hope it's the. I mean, he might be trying something on. Let him cook.
That's a very good point. You know, we have to enter high society. So, Blob, whatever you would like to call yourself, that is within your rights.
You're goddamn right, see?
Now, perfect. Well, shall we enter high society?
Let's blorb the roof off this mother.
Oh God, he's got a catchphrase.
Are we putting on ears now? Cool.
Putting on ears?
Dude, let's do this.
You may go. The door
Same
slams.
time next week. Okay, that's how it goes
Door
then.
slams behind you. No time for pleasantries. There's people waiting to go in.
This guy has an almost lethal level of cop face.
I did explain what the character was to Featherweight, and I did say, could you draw me a Loxodon with a mustache? Is that possible?
Give me Michael Chiklis's persona.
I mean, he's got an earring, which maybe he had a rebellious youth.
Yeah.
We don't know what freaky stuff
Wait,
he
is it
gets
only
up
on
to.
his left ear? Is he down to clown?
He's got both. Is he?
Tizia, are the replacements here yet? Yep, right here. Slock used to play for the Drowners. He was the power bombardier, and the other three are tougher than they look. But we're still short a player. Tizia shrugs and gestures to Valencia. Let the dog play.
That's true. There's nothing in Swamp Ball rules that says a dog can't play Swamp Ball.
Not since they took that rule out.
Suddenly another voice pipes up. She's right. Ain't no rule says a dog can't play swamp ball.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. I was wondering who would say it first. I believe in you.
I'm not going to
Or-
ask for this too many times.
Or
Please, for the love of God.
whatever is your best stat.
Yeah.
Is that is it a natural one again?
Natural one.
That's something.
Just took a while to warm up.
Third one of the day.
Oh my gosh.
You had whatever swamp
We're
balls
struggling.
ring rusted.
God, why?
Swamp
All right.
Why did you convince me to play Dungeons and Dragons?
That whenever I need to be fancy.
Well, I did tell Featherweight that you guys may want to wear casual clothes to a concert, and and as usual, I gave him very little instructions. But let's see what he's come up with.
Well,
for
let's go
y'all.
home and change and meet up.
I can't wait to see anything different.
Valencia's sunglasses.
I only now notice the soother.
I had not seen the pacifier until just now.
man.
Holy shit.
The glow bracelets.
Yeah, we definitely pulled that off an animatronic robot.
And everybody
Yeah, I
who's
love
still
that you
standing out
did
there is going to
Carson
feel a
Catholic
familiar
after
tap,
that.
and you're going to be, come back to the VIP area. So, and you can come back and you can talk to Ogden
I
again.
appreciate I know which NPC wants to talk to us again, but this is the only NPC that Kathleen raises her leg.
It's important to get into his shitty attitude.
I love it. That was a great show.
Oh, thank you. I'm very, very pleased with how it turned out, as usual. This is why I made sure that we had inspiration.
There we go.
Keep on trucking.
So
Jughead of the eternal realms.
Your ankle thing is now just
So-
a padlock.
whose face is that on his junk?
That's
I'll give you 3 guesses, Ben.
so
It's from the
basically.
Hot Springs episode of
Road
Quest.
Yeah.
I had to explain
I'm
that to
tired of
Penelope.
them. I'm tired of these people.
It's 2006. I am drafting Dark Confidant.
My opponent to my right passes me the second dimmer aqueduct of the draft.
I think of my first girlfriend.
It is 2026.
I'm 18.
18. Okay, you feel the Nephilim's claws scrape against your mind, and you feel it. You know it would make you a star. You would be the greatest star in the world. But what do you tell yourself to resist?
And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed, just to get it all up, get out of my head. I feel a little peculiar.
I love that that's
It works so well.
It's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I say, get out, get out. I say, hey, get the hell out of my head.
I will use supreme legal authority on Enor
Oh!
good
to
call.
prevent him from casting spells. Enor, no, bad.
Against the law. You went to jail already.
You're in violation of your parole.
Oh man, that was awesome. Thank you, Jordynne.
I forgot about Blorb, but you know what Blorb made me remember? My favorite character of the show.
Oh yes, I know.
Culpability Brown.
Culpability Brown. My favorite part of this was the transformation into Culpability Brown.
I did think that would be a thing that would just pop up over and over.
I was not expecting.
Show.
Good show, old chaps. We really showed those fun guys.
Culpability Brown is just like A+ character name. Like
I think I told Ian this, but my third voice, if it happened, was going to be the other henchman from Venture Brothers.
right. Yeah.
To go with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like with Culpability Brown, it was like, okay, you can be this guy. And it took like a couple minutes before I was like, wait a minute. This thing makes him look like he did when he died.
That was Sean and McGuire came up with that mushroom.
Okay. Yeah.
I was the one who made it so you'd look like Culpability Brown. Because I thought that was funny, and we were in his horrible prison.
Yeah.
The cops.
Yes. So this is something that nobody really noticed, but I saw Iris of Ether get it.
MathNet.
Yeah.
This is Monday, and frankly, from MathNet.
Yeah.
What is that?
This MathNet is a thing that we've been watching with Penelope. It's a show from the late 80s, early 90s. This is Frankly, and this is Monday. And now when you go back and watch it, you're not going to be able to unhear it. That's why they asked you over for Meatloaf.
MathNet was a PBS series that usually followed Reading Rainbow or perhaps 321 Contact.
It was part of Square One TV.
Yes, Square One TV, right.
Was the name of the show, and the back half of every episode of Square One TV, varying between like 10 and sometimes even 20 minutes, was MathNet, which was a parody of Dragnet.
Yeah.
Like they even used like the dun 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 as the thing, and it was all very dry noir. Rewatching it now, it's really funny.
It's really good, honestly.
Incredibly
Really?
well written and acted, and it's all just like it's aimed for like children, and it's solving detective crimes with math, basically. And that they would do it because it would air, Square One TV would air every day of the week, and so 1 week would be a full story, and so you'd have Monday through Friday would be, then on the Friday episode they'd solve it, and so they'd be having conversations on like the Thursday episode and be like, but wait, so and so told us this in Tuesday's episode, right? Like they'd be like sort of lampshading that, and it was very funny.
Honestly, it's a really good show, and that's why they did that whole. We have demonstrated a mathematical thing because Frankly and Monday would often like go up to a board and like write out the math problem and show it to people. So that was because we were watching a lot of MathNet with Penelope at the time, so I thought that would just be something fun to put in. Yeah, it's a good, honestly, kind of fun and well written.
The Chief was played by James Earl Jones.
We got art for Jonathan Wick, by the way.
Does the centipede live in the second one?
My
That's
sweet
good. I
boy.
forgot because there was a miscommunication. I'm going to blame myself on this one. Miscommunication, and I didn't realize we had art for Jonathan Wick, so it didn't get into the actual episode. Because some art was added, some art showed up during the recordings, displayed on screen as you see here, and sometimes, in the case of like, for example, Columbo or whatever, Featherweight would be watching and then would draw stuff after the fact that we would then put in the episode, like the Sheathcliff comic.
Yes.
I don't think we have that. I don't know if anyone went back and if any of the players checked out that episode. It's on the Dropbox. I could find it for Paul.
Oh, didn't somebody also make like fan art of all the different all the different cartoons?
I sent Paul links to the fan
Oh,
art
no
we
way.
got.
Somebody drew the close side one, and
Yeah.
like
Oh,
describing a Far Side comic using words is so difficult
Yeah.
to do, right? And the fact that they were able to understand the exact one that I was referencing.
Oop. Yeah, they
close part.
did a second one. Which
Oh,
was,
they did. Yeah, this is a different one.
That's Mathnet. keeps
James
showing
Earl
up.
Jones keeps coming back.
Kids, how many living guild packs can you find?
This is how many appliances, how many home appliances can you find?
Right,
It's
yeah.
literally the same sort of layout.
Nice.
And then crisis tool.
Crisis tools. That's
the close part.
so good. Oh my god, that's great. Paul, if you look on Dropbox, you should be able to find the Sheathcliff, the meat helmet
Was there the one
cartoon that Featherweight did.
Did we get all of them on there? Like the one that I described?
Yes, I sent Paul all of the links, but I don't know if
okay.
he's
Oh,
got
sorry.
them all.
Paul, just keep bringing up things.
Featherweight says that the Sheathcliff
Or
meat,
James Earl Joe.
the Sheathcliff meat helmet is the same design as the Swamp Ball helmets that hadn't shown up yet in the show, but he had already drawn.
Because I tried to give Featherweight lots of advance notice of all the different costume changes and stuff. In a perfect world where Featherweight had no other jobs to do, Marlowe would have gotten art. The person that you antagonized would have gotten art.
So big.
Which one?
The guy who was running the morgue and who ordered all the petunias for you.
Oh yes, yeah. Who I kept. We
Yeah.
kept going sort of back at passive aggressively.
Yeah. He had no personality, as I said during but Ben was like, no, he doesn't like me. I was like, great, I can work with
Yeah.
this. But yeah,
Who
he
made
would
all
have
the
gotten art.
petunias?
And and a couple other people would have gotten art. But I decided Featherweight was already doing so many alternate costumes and stuff.
It's never
never
good
good.
when the sausage buckets come out.
This is also just a Heathcliff
This is just a
comic.
Heathcliff one, right? Like, yeah.
This was complete. And again, you just joked about there's a comic called Sheathcliff, and then Featherweight did this,
Yeah.
and it was like great.
Ray
That's
posted in our Slack.
that's going in the episode.
Yeah.
Concept of convergent evolution.
Yeah.
There's also, we got a really, really great piece of fan art of Avenir,
Oh, right. Yeah.
which
Oh damn.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
incredible.
I have commissioned this person to do me fan art of,
A Franca?
no.
Ogavin.
Ah, yeah, fair.
I had to put, part of what I was really happy this worked. If you had to compare this to anything, it's Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency for a bunch of random, unrelated things that you get nuggets of information about, and the more you learn, the more it seems to all connect and come together. But one of the big things for this was Ogavin and Ride had to make sense. They had to do a very, for me, stressful chat with the players where I could not lie to them, but I had to
Misdirect.
I had to be honest in a non-fulsome way
Right.
because he does have his own agenda. But I had to think, what is going on with Ogavin and, of course, his new partner, Ride. Just to lay it out for everyone, because there's a couple of questions, and we didn't spend a lot of time talking to them because the players I don't think like either of them, and I think that's fair. Also, this is a really good illustration of how characters change between conception and actual getting there, because I asked Shivim to help me name Ride because they are an Aetherborn, and
Before we get too far from it,
Yeah.
do we have like the credit for like the artists and stuff like that
Yes.
for all the photos that we just showed off?
Oh yeah.
I do. I will find it on now.
Good call. Thank you. Yeah. The Sheathcliff. That was Featherweight. We know that one.
It was Calvin Runard who did the Far Side stuff, and it was Jorick art, and I believe they are in chat as well. Jork Art is in chat.
Perfect.
That
So-
looks amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry to interrupt. I
No,
just wanted
it's
to make
okay.
sure we got the
While,
credit out.
While you're talking about this, if anyone in chat has any further questions, pop them in there, and we'll be wrapping up shortly when we get
Yeah.
to the last bunch of questions.
This is just what I want to. This is just to lay out the timeline. At some point, we'll say about 4 months before the campaign starts, an omen path opens up in the middle of the bog. The omen path is not good for much because it's in the middle of the bog, but luckily, the person who comes through it is a fairly high-level Aetherborn rogue and has little thopter wings and can just fly up over the bog and comes out through the after sausage warehouse. A short time later, they meet Ogavin, and they have, I don't know, I assume some sort of epic meet cute. And after, I will say, a few weeks of realizing they have absolutely complementary character motivations and stuff, I just think the Aetherborn and Orzhov would get along really well because they're both are about like building wealth for your family. And Ogavin, hedonism, Aetherborn, new experiences. I think they'd be a real power couple. And they start organizing concerts because Ride tells Ogavin about how they're getting in and out of the district. Ogavin also was very open with like, yeah, there's an omen path in the 5th district. My ex-boyfriend is on an interplanar tour. Ogavin seemed to know a lot about interplanar travel, more than most other characters. So anyhow, at some point they realize that this thing is going to be serious. We'll say about 3 months, maybe 3.5 months before the campaign starts, that if anything happens to, if this construction project goes ahead and the Chamber of Commerce is, offering more and more money and, Ogavin would be in the know of this because he's at the Chamber of Commerce thing at the beginning because he was invited there as the Orzhov representative. That would be bad for his new partner whom he quite likes. So they make a plan to just vanish the deed just to make sure that if anything does happen, that will gum up the works a little bit longer. And that was never really going to become apparent until it became apparent because Spazabom ate a bunch of mushrooms, the highly potent psychedelic brownies that Zossel had left at a previous factory concert because he got too stoned, and he got onto the bill at the next one because he made an arrangement with Ride saying, I know where things are printed. I work for a place that does printing. I can lay out your book and you can print it locally, but you have to do me a favor. I want to be the opening band on this bill.
Okay.
All right.
And all of them, if you have, at that point I didn't feel like I needed to have them just start volunteering information to you, but all of that would have been, but there was so much stuff going on that was going to get sort of revealed and answered anyhow. But that was all available, so you all could have been found, but didn't really impact too much to not 100% get told that in the moment because there's other stuff happening and other ways of explaining it. But
Gekyoryu asks, was it always the plan for Slock to be a child, or was that determined later?
I didn't even, I had Slock's age, but I didn't know how that would translate
Into
for
elf.
elves.
Fair.
And I think it's funnier if Slock doesn't really have a concept of it either.
Nice.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things where after the episode, I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those things that people that are hardcore into watching tabletop stuff they're going to lose their mind over. Like they're just going to think about this, and I will have forgotten about this 15 minutes later, where it's just funnier to leave it in the aether.
Macbeth Seems Sus asks, was the reveal of Spazabom's death always accidental death, or was there a murderer?
that was always going to be accidental death.
Yeah.
In some way.
The bigger picture was the
But that's why
Nephilim
he
in
got
the
to
bog
be
and all that.
at one point he was just going to have found one of those mushrooms that was growing there underneath in the cavern nobody knew about. At one point he could have just gotten drunk. But yeah, and like add some weird food from the SCA. There was always options there, but it was always going to be accidental death because his death, as Avenir very rightly surmised, didn't actually seem to benefit anyone. In fact, the only people who benefited were Ogavin and Ride because it made things more uncertain.
Yeah, like his death actually made everyone's life harder.
Yeah.
Hades Leprechaun says, all the Nephilim have flavor text that say, when it awoke, something spooky. Like Ink Treader says, when it awoke, the mirrors of the world reflected only darkness. What might be
Oh.
the flavor text for this Nephilim.
Oh, when it awoke, it spoke only lies. And it,
That's good.
When it awoke, it spoke only lies. So the Nephilim had the ability to reach out and get what the person wanted most, which is very important. So the other timeline that happens before this is at some point, about I think 3 years before the campaign, these three guys and Melander kill Obort Zunak, who, as the party determined, was roommates, sort of, with Bruna. I left their relationship undefined, and y'all filled it in. So I was like, great, that makes it much easier if it's just a romance thing. But it wasn't like straight romance. Basically, he's dead. Bruna is quite upset because they had been together for years, but maybe not together, as defined by the party, and is kind of mad that his long-term partner chose to commit suicide by Azorius squad because he went nuts instead of just talking to him about what he was feeling, right? And was really upset and was doing some digging into his past and was like, he always believed that crap. And I always thought it was kind of like, something he believed, like, an interesting hobby, but not something he was willing to die for. Started doing research about the bog which does not have any old gods in it, but in the process of doing research about the bog, was whispered to by the Nephilim, who said, what do you desire most? Bruna said, I want Obort Zunak back. I can bring you to Obort Zunak. I can make you two together again. You have to release me. Scheme starts. All right, bog's got to go.
All right. Somebody was asking, since the part of the After Sausage factory was destroyed, what you did touch on this in the episode, but it's not like the Chamber of Commerce under Tizia that can just sort of take over that property and build that stadium's not happening.
There's no way. Not with Bruna dead. I mean, they could try. They could sue, I assume, to expropriate the property, but it would be much faster and easier if they just bought it.
Farabender asks a question. Farabender's question is specifically for Ben, Ian, and Wheeler, but I am going to open it to Cameron and paraphrase it slightly. Do you think your characters will be happy on the planes that they are now on or still on?
Slock seems perfect.
Oh yeah, I'm chilling on Lorwyn.
I mean,
No, you're on the goat plane.
Yeah,
No,
which is
Gold Medal
is
Gold
on.
Medal
Is it on Lauder?
Oh,
No, I said.
I thought it was its own plane.
No, Gold Medal is just like a location
It's a plain
on
card.
Lorwyn.
on Lorwyn.
It's like the 6th district as part of Ravnica.
Is Lorwyn currently in its unseelie phase right now?
Wherever Slock is, it seems to be
Pretty chill.
totally isolated from whatever other atrocities have happened.
Okay.
Yeah, just nice and quiet.
I kind of hope that Nog, Valencia, and Enor are basically going on Yakuza, like a dragon adventures.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That sounds real good. I made the decision actually halfway through the campaign that no matter where the ending was taking us, that Enor was going to, if even off camera, just leave the plane.
Yeah.
He's completely done with Ravnica and the Ravnica civil system of government.
I
The system has
picture us
failed him.
doing the Friday night dance.
Yeah.
So you were always going to be given an option at the end to leave the plane, destroy the Omen Path, go through the Omen, do whatever you wanted, right? I wanted to leave that ending very open. Because everyone had different motivations around that Omen Path. I figured that Slock would not want to destroy it, but Avenir would have been told to destroy it based on the sort of conversations we had with the boss. So I was like, okay, so I want to leave them the option for an Omen Path. But the dice rolling at the end was purely for I was just going to send you to the plane I thought your characters would be happiest on. I was just I didn't even decide ahead of time. You're just all right, I'm going through. I know it's unstable. Enor, where are you going? Roll me a dice for dramatic effect so I can wait a second before I say you're on Kamigawa. And I give myself a second to think of what I'm going to say. And so it was very instinctual. I don't know where I would have sent Nog because you rolled the 1, so I never had to think of it. Maybe you could have gone to Dominaria and been like a knight?
Maybe.
Where would Nog have been happiest?
Probably
Capenna?
Thunder Junction.
Thunder Junction?
We would have been a cowboy,
Yeah.
mount with Valencia as a mount. And
Well, if there's one thing we know about Thunder Junction, about a bajillion Omen paths go there.
I was
so-
gonna say everybody's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like going through an Omen path
Applejack.
is not necessarily and there seem to be a lot of Omen Pass in the multiverse. So because I was
It seems
finding,
like it's not goodbye for anybody at this point
no,
ever.
It was interesting because I was finding out information about how criminal investigations go on Ravnica while running the first couple episodes of this campaign. I had a meltdown about how Zone of Truth was going to work.
Right.
By the way, Oghavan had Zone of Truth, so if you had tried to break into the factory, he would have caught you and spiked it on all of you.
Right.
But he also was fully spec'd out as a very high-level cleric, so if you had to go into the final fight having to fight through his guards, he was going to feel bad and he was going to come and help you out, as was Rede. Just to make sure you didn't get TPK'd.
Fair.
Because it would have taken a lot of resources to fight through the guards and break in, unless you had rolled perfectly on all your stealth checks, probably.
So it doesn't have to be goodbye for the characters, obviously. And there were some questions in chat about future Bylaw Order or future Dice Friends. Nothing to announce at this time. There are currently no plans, except that there will be more Dice Friends in the future. But what that is and who's involved and who's running that, watch the skies for announcements.
You've got Jacob in charge of finding ideas and plans and all that kind of jazz too. And he does a great job.
And that is, however, I think going to be goodbye for this evening. Unless anyone has anything further they would like to volunteer.
Do we have those codes?
Do we? Yes, we can do that after we do the YouTube sign off. What's up?
Hey, Kathleen, thank you very much for all the hard work and stuff that you put
Yeah.
into this.
Yeah.
You did an amazing job. We really appreciate it.
I just wanted everyone to have a good time, to do some goofy stuff that they had said that they wanted to do, and I wanted to tell a story that everybody would hopefully find interesting. And I read a lot of mysteries in the past year to figure out exactly how they work mechanically. So if anybody is interested, you can hit me up in Discord and I will walk you through the mechanics of how to put together a mystery.
All right. Well, great. Hey, as a viewer of the show, this was a blast. So thank you, all of you, for all of your roles in it. Thanks to Featherweight. I know that you already did thank yous at the end of the actual episode. Paul for running tech on all the episodes except the one that Beej ran. So thanks, Beej, for that. I don't think he's within earshot. And shout outs obviously to MangledPixel for the intro, Jordynne for doing all the editing on episodes 2 through 9, and that lovely highlight that we saw earlier. Paul mentions in chat, whoever's supposed to be watching Enor's ankle monitor is probably real confused.
Enor's not coming back, he's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, that is going to do it for this, for the Q&A. Thank you all, everybody, for watching. Reminder, of course, everything we do here at Loading Ready Runs brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, by subscribing on Twitch for those watching live, becoming a member on YouTube, all that wonderful stuff. So signing off for this stream, at least, I have been Graham, joined by Kathleen, Wheeler, Cameron, Ben, and Ian, with Paul on tech, and we will talk to you next time Dice Friends returns.